Good morning! Today we're going into architecture diagrams. We're going to go from this to this. Intro. Alright, here we got two sample diagrams. We got two flows going into this. There is a user, goes into a gateway, gets into our service through REST. That service gets some data from a database. Then it needs to get more data from a different service. So let's say that we're utilizing gRPC for that. That service 2 gets data from a database and returns the response to service 1. Service 1 does whatever it needs to do and sends the response back to the user. The second flow is actually getting data into the database of service 2. So let's say that there is an S3 bucket that triggers the Lambda processes whatever got into that S3 bucket and it puts it into an SQS queue, for which service 2 then has workers that traverse those messages and do whatever they need to do to put them into the database for later usage. So let's start making this looking really good. First things first, let's just get all our assets into place. We're gonna make this a little smaller. That's way too small. There you go. The easiest thing to do, so Draw.io has a lot of different assets and you can find them in the search shapes. So you can put whatever you want here. Let's say we want an S3. And you'll see that there is a lot of different kinds of S3. There is this design that AWS provides plus a bunch of other ones. And the ones that we're probably going to be using is this S3 boxy thing because it's more cool. And you can do that, or you can actually add more libraries or more shapes. So if you go to the more shapes on the corner, you'll see that there are different libraries that show up, and we're going to get into the AWS S3. So when we click on that one, we get into these AWS S3 shapes, which are the ones that we're going to use today. So we'll just hit apply to make sure that we get them. And you'll see that it shows up on the left panel. Now, a high overview of Draw.io. On the left side, you have all the shapes and everything that you actually want to use for your diagrams. You can actually export it the same way. So I would just suggest go through the tool and play with it so that you get familiarized with yourself more with it. I'll probably do more videos later to get more detail into different parts of Draw.io, but for now, let's just get into the diagram. So go into S3. Then we said we need an S3 bucket, so I'm just gonna copy it in there. We know that we need a Lambda, so the Lambda should be here. Then we know that we need an SQS queue. And then we know we need a service. There is not really a service, so we're going to make the service out of different items. So let's continue on. We'll just get the database. There we go. And then we need 2 of these ones. Let's copy it. And then we need the gateway, which we'll just use this one instead. And then we need a user. And then to make it cool, we'll just give that user a computer. Right? Then we're going to, how do we depict the gRPC communication within a service that is actually hosting that? We're going to just choose this box to depict the gRPC server, and then we're going to depict the gRPC client by this box. These are just ones that I picked, so feel free to do whatever you want to do. Then we're going to utilize workers to actually depict the consumption of the messages. We'll get a couple of those. Alright, let's go faster. We're going to start with the service by grabbing these liney thingies, stretch them, rotate them, and this is what is going to be the perimeter of our service. So we're building service 1 right now, which has database. Then we grab the gRPC client, and now we grab the gateway and the user, which we put outside of the service. Here I found that the lines were crooked, so I wanted to make sure that they were parallel to the lines of the drawings to make them look proper. Then we're going to create a line that actually shows the communication of the client passing through the gateway and then getting into the service. Naming is an important thing, so make sure that you always name your services, name your assets, make sure you provide names to everything. I tried to create a little application thing here to show the logic, and I found a little square that looked nice, so I used it. Then we have the line depicting that the logic communicates to the database, and that logic creates a response that goes back to the user. But then we needed to actually align the logic to the client, so I had to do it over. I copied the service to be service 2 because it makes it way easier. Then I grabbed the gRPC server, aligned it with the gRPC client, and made an arrow. Angles are very important when you're doing this kind of drawing. Once I found that it was proper, I wanted to make sure that the gRPC server and some of the logic was attached to the actual database to make it look nicer. Then I decided to grab the workers and make sure they were aligned. Then I added that there's communication between the workers and the logic. Here, then I tried to put the SQ, but then I realized that the lines weren't going to work very well. So I decided to rotate the drawings. That way I have that S3 bucket communicates with the Lambda. Then the Lambda posts the message into the SQ. And now we had to put the workers in reverse order, therefore why I moved them, so that make sure that everything lines properly. Take your time aligning all the items to make them look good, because ideally here is not just making things understandable, but it's also making things look good. We got the arrows to communicate workers to the database, and then we had the arrows from SQS to workers. We moved the gRPC server over and I aligned it with the client again. We had the logic box. Create that arrow, align things a little bit better. And we get into the fun part, colors. So we add colors. I really like choosing colors that depict the ones that AWS usually uses. And I like utilizing white for the lines. It just makes everything pop better and it looks better overall. So I picked just random colors for some of the gRPC clients, and the databases I just picked a blue for something that reminds me of MySQL for some reason. But since I had green available for the logic, then I used those for those boxes. I used black for the gateway just because. So just have fun with the coloring as well. Just pick things that you like and that match whatever brands, I guess, of all the different tools that you use, and go from there. In a following video, I'll walk in through how to create your own library and how to create your own 3D assets like this, so that you're not so constrained to the 3D AWS assets. And yeah, thanks for watching. Please make sure to subscribe and like this video, and I'll see you next time.